Hey guys, here with another Training Confidential. Here's Donnie Whetstone. So this is the last of the series of body parts, and we're talking about arms today. Probably the funnest. I mean, for most people, the funnest body parts to train, really. And they're really important, just like all the body parts are equally as important. Uh, Maybe this is more interesting to most people because it's arms. Everybody likes to do arms. Nothing better than having big arms. Anyway, we're going to start this off. How you doing, Donnie?
Not bad, man. How you doing?
I'm all right. Been a long day, but I'm good. So I want to start off with the very first question, and I always do, is the importance of arms in a competition physique.
Well, I tell you, there aren't a lot of poses that don't involve the arms to some degree, whether from the front, the back, the side. Um, um, it's one of those muscle groups that to where it's they take away from you if they're too small, but they can also take away from you if they're too big. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean, they you know arms they really kind of stand out a little bit and stuff. And like I said, it's one that's you can hide them to some extent, maybe like with most musculars and stuff like that, but. You're doing whenever you're doing single arm biceps or front double arm biceps or rear biceps or three-quarter back, you're getting your arms involved in it. That's this situation right here, you're going to have it from either side, front, back, or the sides.
Yep.
And so it's just great to have arms that are very balanced, and still balanced for your body too. and
Yeah.
and and that's one thing that people have to understand. If your arms are too big for your body, that can actually work against you. It's not like you can just get them as big as you want. You got to keep things in context and stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I mean, I think you know during some decades, some muscle groups stand out. Like in the '70s, it was really about abs, and arms. Like in the '90s and the 2000s, it was about that's when the glutes really started coming in and stuff. But arms have always been a, a biggie throughout the decades. It's one that never dies. It's not trendy or anything like that and stuff.
No,
No matter
definitely not.
what decade you're in, you had to have a nice set of arms and stuff. They'd always carry you through. Always carry you through.
And even for your regular gym bro, I mean, that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to have big arms.
Yeah,
That's the number one thing.
and one of
Probably.
the things, but not everybody can get big arms.
No, no,
You
no.
know,
And that brings me to my next question is, well, for one thing, how, when you're training arms, we got the tricep, we got the bicep.
mm-hmm.
We got three muscles in the tricep, we got two muscles in the bicep. So that being said, I want to talk kind of about how necessary is it to go heavy on either or? Can we go heavy on biceps and stay lighter on triceps, or should we go heavier on triceps and stay lighter on biceps, or both? Or
Now you actually want to do both, but the thing about it is this: you want to put more volume on the tricep than on the bicep. Keep the loads heavy, but more volume. The reason being is there's more. The bicep takes about a third of your muscle size, your arm size, and the 2/3 of your arm size is actually tricep.
tricep?
And what
Yeah.
people have to realize, the key to the big arm isn't necessarily in the bicep; it's in the tricep.
Yeah.
That's where the key to the big arm is.
I'm glad you said that because a lot of people don't know that. They just will go do curls every single day and get. But
Right?
the triceps
Yeah,
what make your arms look big.
every now and then I'll do that and stuff, but typically I tend to start with a tricep first. Some kind of
Mm.
I'll either pre-exhaust, start out with an isolation move, or heck, I just walk pyramid to the working load real quick and just start out with a compound move. But more than I know, but everybody should have that mindset. The
Yeah.
key to the big arm is not in the bicep; it's in the tricep.
So when you're so with our rep range that we do, we try to get five, of heavy. Now, when it comes to the bicep, would is it? I mean, the tricep. I would assume you need to go heavy on triceps, right? I mean, because it can handle more load. It's a bigger muscle. But
And,
is it? Do you want to start off with a weight where you can get five? I guess it depends on where you're at in your routine. But I mean, would it be better to get a weight that you could start off with five good reps and then finish off training rest pause with something lighter, or would it be something to go moderately heavy, squeeze, really feel the weight, with the bicep?
And this is another thing too, because some people, like with me, I tend all of my strength is up front. You know what I mean? So I tend to descend. I tend to start heavy, and get the most of my strength levels and stuff, because they start to dip pretty quick. But some people are just the opposite.
Yeah, really.
Some people, they start lighter and they just get heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier, and they can just keep going that way. Whereas with me, you know, I couldn't do that. I would, by the time I got about midway through, then I would probably not be able to move as much weight and stuff, because my muscles are already, I'm not able to recruit that many more fibers. So it kind of depends on what your flavor is and what you're naturally inclined, or your body's inclined to do. If you're one of these persons and you feel that you need to ascend because, you need time to really get the muscles warmed up and stuff before you can really start moving some weight. Whereas with me, and to a certain and to some extent we get a nice little warm up and stuff, and just jump right into it, start heavier, and then as our muscles go through failure, we just drop the loads and we keep going, because we got a set volume that we have to hit.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that question is because I was kind of under the consensus before we trained, that go lighter on bicep curls. Triceps are always heavy, but biceps, start off with 40s or something, and really squeeze and feel it. But you know what? Ever since I started training you, we go heavy, and we start off with those heavy dumbbell curls,
Yeah.
standing alternating curls, and I'll get 5 to 8 or whatever. Well, now my muscles fried, so by the time I get done with my 20,
Yeah.
boom,
Yeah.
that pump is there. In fatigue, I nailed those biceps like crazy. Whereas before, if I just done it with the 40s, maybe 3 sets of 10 or 15 or whatever, I wouldn't get that same effect.
I know and I know some people, they use different training principles for different muscle groups, and I think it's for me to stay balanced. I tend to train for density, and so when you train heavy, you don't always, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're trying to train to get thicker, although that's a big part of it. But one of three things is going to happen: you're either going to get thicker, or you're going to get more dense, or it's going to be a combination of both. And so you're also thinking about that density too. When you get all those muscles fired, and I use the same principles for my biceps as I do my triceps. I don't go lighter on the biceps and then go heavier on the tri. I mean, the principles are still the same. And to me, it's just the way of staying balanced on everything. You know, everything is balanced. Everything is looking the same. Because if you're using different training principles, let's say you're doing a lot of volume and high, a lot of volume with lighter weight, but yet you're going heavy on the tricep. It's you're gonna have a little different. You're not gonna have the same effects. And me personally speaking, like I said, whatever training principle I'm using on one muscle group, I'm probably using them on all of them. And
Yeah.
and the same thing with the arms and stuff. I'm using the same principles with my arms that I use my legs, my back, my chest, everything else. So when I come out, that degree of density that I'm looking for it's everything, not just a
Yeah.
particular muscle group.
And that works. I mean, definitely that is the way to do it for us anyway.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
like I said, when I first started training with you, I trained rest pause before, but not like that. And just the whole training principle that we train just fired off for me, just perfectly. You know what I mean? And to the point where I won't train any other way. It's like we were talking earlier, might, if you had extra time, might split body parts up in a
Yeah,
day, a specific body part. But other than that, our training's going to stay the same because it works. you
because
know?
because our work schedules are kind of the same, because
Yeah,
we're
they
at
are.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, when that time that I have to train, that I got 1 hour, to train. That means
Yeah.
not only am I working out, I'm also setting up stuff and I'm doing my auxiliaries. So I don't have a lot of time to be messing around. I don't want,
Because you
to
got a
be
client
doing
right after
multiple
that.
sets and all this other stuff. I got to hit it now and then move on to the next one and hit that one and then move on to the next one and hit that one. That's basically how we do it and stuff.
Yeah.
So we can get in and out because we know we got stuff to do when we're done.
Yeah. And you can't skip the workout. I don't work that way. So
Yeah, I did.
yeah, I like it. I like it, man. Let's talk about exercises for arms for mass.
Okay.
Let's talk about mass because there are, I think there's some different ones, but we start off with biceps. What are some good ones for biceps for mass?
Any exercise that's going to allow you to move a decent amount of weight, like take for instance a standing barbell curl, you're going to be able to move more weight with that than with a preacher barbell curl. So any curl that's going to allow you to recruit a high amount of fibers, will basically move some decent weight, you know. And like I said, it just I would say standing dumbbell curls is a good one. You can actually move some good weight with that. Of course, the standing barbell curl, the cable curl. The thing about it is this: with biceps, like it's unlike shoulders or unlike chest, where you can have an isolation move with the chest, and then you can have a compound move with the chest. Same thing with the shoulders. You can have an isolation move with the shoulders, and you can have a compound move with the shoulders. You can do that with triceps, but you can't do that with biceps.
Yeah.
Okay. With biceps, you basically, I know some people, they do this off underhand row, and they're pulling. It looks like a reverse row, but in a way, it's like a compound arm curl where they're getting the shoulders and the back into it a little bit. Me personally speaking, I would just go ahead and just hit the bicep. So there's not really a compound move for the bicep, like there is for the triceps. And that's one reason why you can move a lot more weight with that tricep. Not so much with an extension, but with the tricep press. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Arm curls, if you're really strong guy, you can probably do maybe like 200, but a close grip bench press, you can go way north of 300 pounds, and that's just nailing your triceps, but with biceps, you don't have a compound move. It's all isolation moves, and so the thing about it is it just depends on what your body position. If you're seated, you're not going to be able to move as much weight. If you're in that preacher position, you're not going to be able to move as much weight. If you're in that incline position, like an incline curl, you're not going to be able to move that much weight. But if you're just standing straight up, you know what I mean? You're going to be able to move a decent amount of weight.
Yeah. And hammer curls.
Hammer curls look cool. I don't care. Barbell, dumbbell, cable, machine, whatever. If you're standing, you're able to get a good stance on it, you're going to be able to move some weight and stuff. So that's where your mass training is going to come from.
All right, what about triceps? I mean, you kind of talked on that a little bit.
So triceps, same thing too with triceps. Like I said, you've got your isolation moves, like your standing extensions, your lying extensions, your overhead extensions, anything to where you got the elbow isolated and you're just doing this. That's the equivalent of the curl. So basically, when people superset, like a true superset would be an arm curl, and you turn around and you do a tricep extension, because that's it. You're working antagonistic muscle groups. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
Whereas with the press, a press is you're getting the shoulders involved in it. Okay, and even though the shoulders is getting a good portion of that weight, the triceps is really getting a real good portion of that weight and stuff. Especially like it's perfect for pre-exhaustion. If you start up with like an extension, like a lying barbell extension or something like a skull crusher, and then you turn around and you do that close grip bench press, to where those triceps are much more fatigued than the shoulders and the chest is, and then you're going to get more out of that.
Yeah, skull crushers. Those are my go-to.
yeah. I mean, those
things.
Those are your isolation moves. Typically, if you're thinking about really putting some serious mass on your triceps, you're doing some type of a tricep press, or you're doing a wide grip extension. Okay.
Oh, okay.
A standing cable extension. The wider the grip, the more you're going to isolate that medial head of the tricep. And the inner head, and which is the bigger head.
Yeah.
And so the more weight that you can pull, I tend to go wider. When I was a teenager, we always use close grip extensions, and I can actually feel them on the outer head of the tricep. But the thing about it is, if you really want to get that good underhang down on that head, on that front double arm bicep, or that with that extension, you really want to get that nice underhang. You want to probably get a slightly wider grip there, and then go that way. It's going to allow you to push a little bit more weight. You can recruit more fibers, And
so, what if your muscle's a little stubborn? Like I know my arms, they grow slow. Once they
Yeah,
got a certain
some
size,
people
they
have
just
it.
grow slow. And
Yeah,
and I mean they're proportionate, they're symmetrical, but like my tricep, I need more tricep, I feel like, and it's like
and you just made a good point though. Your arms do not take away from your physique.
yeah,
They may
yeah.
not be as big as you like them to be. That's just personally you. But
Mm.
I looked at your pics and stuff, and it's not like, okay, he has small arms and stuff.
Yeah,
Everything ties in with you
yeah.
and stuff. So
And
so
that's the
yeah,
important thing. That's why we do it anyway.
that's the main thing.
But
That's the main thing. As long as your arms do not, they cannot take away from your physique. If
but
they
is
do
it
that, then we got
something
to do some stuff.
is it something like calves, if you got calves and they're taken away from your Zeke and like me and we had problems with our calves. We do calves every day, brought our
Yeah.
calves up. Is that something you can do technically with the tricep or the bicep to an
Um,
extent?
I kind of do something like that with my quads, and so that remember when I told you I had that meniscus surgery
Yeah.
and with the arthritis, I couldn't do a typical leg workout where you're doing heavy extensions and heavy presses and they're nice and deep and you're doing hack squats. I can't do that stuff anymore. So to compensate, what I do is the one thing that I can do is, like I said, I do those pulses.
Mm-hmm.
I do that time under tension, and I do one heavy set of that for my quads, and I do it 5 days a week. You know,
Okay.
and so it's anywhere from 100 to 150 reps with
Yeah,
about 500
that's
pounds,
crazy.
and and they seem to work out. I mean, and that's one of those. It's something that you would do under abnormal circumstances. I mean, if you can train your legs like most people train their legs, you don't necessarily have to do that. I know some people are like, well, if I got really small legs, maybe, that's something I may want to do. You can give it a try. It's not gonna, it won't really take that much away from you. But typically, if I had the ability to train my legs the way I did when I was in my 30s and 40s, that's what I would be doing instead of doing what I'm doing now.
And that from the stories you told me, you moved some weight when you were younger with like where you're
Yeah,
telling me you're doing what I think it was
well,
500 pounds.
I would rest pause. I would do 15 count rest pause with
That's
500 pounds.
yeah, that's
So yeah, yeah.
that's nuts. And if you guys don't know rest pause yet, man, that is not easy stuff. You're you're
It's
probably
not.
about you're probably
It's
about
not.
falling over on the ground when you're done with that set, right?
It's all about hitting it and quitting it. Get in, get out. Don't mess around. That's it. You do what you do, and you get to flock out. Now, don't get me wrong. We love training. Okay,
Yeah,
it's a passion of mine. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It really is. But we got other things to do.
Got other things. We got to
you
feed the
know,
family and stuff like
yeah, we
that.
got other
So,
things to do.
uh, one thing I wanted to touch on feeder exercises. I don't know if you've heard
Say
that
that
term.
again.
Feeder exercises.
Okay.
And basically what that is like for the bicep, for example, you want to bring up your bicep and you could do it on every muscle group. I just wanted to know what your thought on it was. So basically what it is you train like normal, except every night when you're like, say I want to bring up my biceps or whatever with feeder exercise. So every night I'm going to do like 50 reps of really low weight just to get the blood in there. So that's why they call it feeder
Okay.
exercises. So just to get the blood in there to start repairing and doing its thing. What do you think about that?
Um. Yeah. It's just all in a matter of context. I mean, sure. I mean, I wouldn't tell anybody don't do it. I
Sure.
would probably say something like, "Well, give it a shot and see what happens."
See what happens. Yeah. Yeah. That'd be the
Because
best thing. Yeah.
there's so many ways to do this. There's a way to train. There isn't necessarily the way to train. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's a way to train,
Yeah.
and it could be a way to train at this point in your life or this point in your training career. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's I didn't train like this my entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, I started out, and I did it for years with that standard 5 sets of 10 to 15 reps, per muscle group. I mean, I did that for years, and then I did some other stuff, I mean, and I just happened to come full circle back to what I'm doing now and stuff,
Yep.
but I wouldn't tell someone, to not do that.
Yeah.
I take a look at their physique and stuff. Let's say if somebody was doing it and their physique looks phenomenal, it may seem odd to me and stuff, but who am I to judge? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something I think Rich Piana was big on that when he was alive, and not something I really ever did, but I was just something I just thought of while we were talking about what you thought of it. To me, in my mind, it makes sense, like it would work as long as it's not a weight that's going to actually tear the fibers up at that point,
Yeah, yeah,
because
and
you need to repair.
yeah, that's what I was thinking about. And the thing about it is that muscle group has to really be bad in order to. I mean, if you got a muscle group that's not taking away from your physique,
Mm.
you may not you may not it may not be to your that person's satisfaction, but it's clearly not taken away from their physique. I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't see a reason why you would do that. Now, if obviously if there's an issue and you can clearly see, yeah, this is actually taken away from your physique, I'd give it a shot.
Hmm. That's an interesting theory, though. So anyway, let's go to the next one, man. I always ask
Yeah,
you this with every body part. Who's got the best arms in bodybuilding history?
I would say Arnold.
I was going to say the same thing because
I
he
would
had
say,
that peak. He had that
yeah,
peak that
but back in 1976, 1975 and 70, 22-inch arms, man, was huge, dude.
yeah.
Remember now, just in the 1950s, even the 60s, the early 60s. I mean, if you had 19-inch arms, I mean, that was huge. You
Is that what
know,
Arnold was
Leroy
22?
Colbert, yeah, Leroy Colbert was the first person official to have his arms measured 20 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave Draper, the blonde bomber and stuff, he was the first one to have 21-inch arms. And
Okay.
everybody thought that was phenomenal. I thought his arms were freaky as crazy as all get out and stuff. And then Arnold comes with 22 and a half. Now, I
22 and a
mean,
half.
22 and a half is not, I mean,
Yeah.
people that got 25 and it's no big deal now, but definitely Arnold, the shape. I mean, the thing about it is his arms, they were just really, really, really balanced. He had that
Yeah.
nice sweep in the triceps and stuff, and he just had that phenomenal peak with the
Yeah.
bicep. And a close second is Robbie Robinson though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Robbie Robinson, I mean, you know, Robbie Robinson had some very, very, very impressive arms.
What
Yeah.
about Coleman? Coleman. I mean, he had 24-inch arms, right?
Coleman, I mean, I think what set Ronnie apart, there wasn't one, well, there was one specific thing that set him apart. It's just that Ronnie's arms, they were really impressive. Nothing really, really, really stuck out with him and stuff, everything was just really freaky,
Yeah.
so nothing really stuck out. The only is the outer head of his tricep. He had his inner head. He had a nice little hang on his inner head, but it was his outer head. He didn't have the big outer head that man. That was just genetics on his on. Ronnie trained like a beast, but
You're right. Yeah, you're right about that. I never thought of it like that,
yeah.
but
Unlike Phil Heath's arms, when he hit his tricep, his outer head was just massive.
bulging out.
Really, really, really thick. He was he was really bubbly.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was had those round muscle bellies and stuff. But I would definitely say probably Arnold.
Yeah, I would have to agree
That's
with you.
the first thing that comes to my mind. Arnold.
Same here. Same
Yeah.
here when I asked you. And I because he had that kind, that dip here, and it came up to a nice peak at an angle
Yeah,
right
nice
here.
peak. Yeah.
And you don't see many biceps that look like that.
And you don't train like that neither. You can't train for that. That's one of those
No,
things.
that's genetics.
That's one of those
Simple
things.
as
Yeah,
that.
you either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
That's just it. And he had it.
So with Ronnie, he'd hit that back shot, and he had that. I mean, now that I know, when I didn't know any better, I'm like, he's got a bicep on his bicep, because he literally had a lump right back on top of his peak, and it was just that's what was crazy. I thought about his biceps.
Ronnie's back double arm bicep and his back lat spread, I think were probably the best in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
There's some people that are close to him though.
Yeah.
But I would have to hit his back double arm bicep it was lights out.
Yeah.
I mean his front double arm bicep. yeah, it was good,
Mhm.
his front lat spread, he didn't have a bad front lat spread. He didn't have the best front lat spread, you know. His side chest, he wasn't at this point. It was his size and conditioning that was getting him through with the rest of the athletes and stuff. They were
Mhm.
probably a little close and stuff. But then, when they turned around and said, okay, turn to the back double on bicep. Okay, we were like, here it goes.
Yeah. Over.
This, here we go.
He's called the king
Here
for a
we
reason.
go. He's like that 200. He's like that 200 meter. He's like the 200 meter guy that can really run that curve. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And once he gets around that, he's already gone. I mean, once he hits that back double on bicep, I mean, once he flexes those glutes and hamstrings,
Oh man, his
done.
his glutes were so shredded for that
It's
time. Like
done.
there was no comparison. Nobody
It's
compared to him.
done. Yeah, and then he go into that back double on bicep, and you had everybody else and you had him. I mean, and it was the same way for the back lat spread.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those really are the two poses that just got him ahead of everybody. You know what I mean? That's what did it. Because
Yeah.
he had some pretty him and I would say him and Dorian Yates. I think they had the more competitive fields in terms of bodybuilding. I would say that what's his name? Not that Mr. Olympia. What's his name?
Oh, Rami?
Yeah, Phil Heath.
Oh,
Phil Heath had some pretty tough lineups and stuff too.
He did, yeah.
But I would say Dorian and Ronnie had the toughest lineups.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Yeah, you're right. I mean, with guys and everything. Yeah.
And the thing with Dorian is he wasn't even the largest guy on stage. He was a mass monster, but he wasn't the biggest.
Really?
There would be at least 2 to 3 guys that were outweighing him by as much as 20 pounds.
Jeez, it didn't look like that.
Paul Deletch, John Pierre Fuchs, so Dorian had to bring more than just a big body and stuff. He had that conditioning, and hey, his structure was not that bad actually.
No. I thought he had a great.
I thought his structure was pretty good from the side.
Yeah, I thought he had a great front lat spread. Just, I mean, his lats were just low, and I mean, he had a great front lat spread. I thought, but anyway,
and the thing about it is he wasn't. If you notice, you really didn't. There wasn't a lot mentioned about his arms.
No,
until he tore that bicep.
Yeah.
Until he tore that bicep.
Yeah, when that happens, it does misshape it a little bit, doesn't it?
So arms, they're pretty important. But that's a perfect example of a muscle group not taking away from his physique. His arms didn't necessarily enhance his physique, but they definitely didn't take away from his physique.
Yeah.
That's
like you said,
right there. That's
nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about it, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, and so arms, like with any other muscle group, if you're a competitor, if it's taken away from your physique, you got some work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, wrapping up this series. Yep, the boy just got home. He's eating a necklace apparently right now. So anyway, we got some fun episodes up that we're talking about and then make for next week. So it's going to get really interesting. Well, it's already been interesting, but it's going to get even more interesting. We have a lot of stuff to say. So
yeah, training.
Stay tuned until next week. You guys like and subscribe. You got any comments? You want to hear anything? You got any questions? Shoot them out and we will answer them.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys have a good night. Have a good night, Donnie.
All right, man.